candle burns low in a quiet room, wax pools at its base, flickering across parchment spread upon a broad oak table. The air smells faintly of salt and old paper, a scent of ink and dust mingling with the slow rhythm of breathing. Beyond the shuttered window, night has settled, deep, calm, and endless. Inside, a hand moves steadily, tracing the curve of a coastline no one in the room has ever seen. The world outside is vast and unknowable, but here, under the wavering flame, it begins to take shape, line by careful line. Tonight, we will drift back to a time when the world was still uncertain. When oceans held mysteries and the edges of maps faded into imagination, the mapmakers of the Age of Discovery worked not in storms or on decks, but in the stillness of workshops and libraries, surrounded by books, globes, and whispered reports of faraway lands. Their lives were slow, deliberate, and patient, a rhythm of study, ink, and silence. So, let your breathing match the pace of their work. Slow, even. You may hear the faint scratch of a quill, a soft rustle of parchment as a page is turned, the muted ticking of a distant clock. The mapmakers are at work, not explorers themselves, but builders of the world's outline. In their hands, imagination and geography became one. Imagine yourself in a narrow street of Antwerp in the early 16th century. The air is cool and smells faintly of river water and smoke. You walk along cobblestones still damp from rain until you reach a small workshop tucked between the homes of merchants and printers. Inside, the light is dim but steady, and the sound is gentle, the quiet rhythm of quills moving over parchment, the soft murmur of apprentices conferring over lines and scales. This is the world of the mapmaker. The room is ordered and dense. Wooden beams above are hung with rolled charts, their edges curled with age. Compass, a straight edge, and a brass divider lie upon the table, glinting faintly in the candlelight. Sheets of vellum are stretched flat under smooth stones to keep them from warping in the night's damp air. In a corner, a boy grinds ink, soot mixed with water, gum, and vinegar, while another copies the shape of a coastline traced from a traveler's sketch. The work is patient, deliberate, and endless. Outside, the world is moving, ships leaving harbor, merchants shouting prices, carts rumbling across bridges, but inside the mapmaker's room, time seems to slow. Here, the earth itself is reimagined. Reports arrive from sailors, each story contradicting the next. A cape farther south than thought, a river wider than it should be. The mapmaker listens, nods, and quietly begins again, adjusting a line, erasing another, his mind balancing myth and measurement. Their work depends on trust in instruments, in memory, and in rumor. Few of them will ever see the places they draw. Yet, with each correction, each redrawn curve of a bay or island, they create something that feels enduring, a promise of order in a world that is still largely unknown. There's a meditative rhythm to their days, scratching of the pen, the sigh of the parchment, the pause to blow gently across wet ink. Some work for kings, others for merchants or universities, each with their own expectations. A royal commission might demand grandeur and beauty, gold leaf and fine colors, while a trading map requires precision and detail. Still, the essential work is the same, line by line, coast by coast, filling the blank spaces with possibility. At night, the workshop is a chamber of half-light. The mapmaker leans close to his work, his eyes adjusting to the flicker of the candle. Sometimes he steps away and studies the whole the way the world looks spread before him. It's imperfect, of course, and always will be. The distances are guessed, the shapes uncertain. Yet for all its flaws, the map offers a kind of quiet reassurance. The idea that even in the vastness of oceans, there is structure, something to hold on to. Outside, rain begins again, soft against the roof. He hears it faintly, but doesn't look up. The quill moves. Another line joins the next, the ocean's edge made tangible through ink and will. As dawn comes, pale and gray, the candle gutters low. The air smells of smoke and paper, of ink and damp wool. The mapmaker stretches, sets down his pen, and steps to the window. Beyond the mist, the masts of ships rise like a forest of slender trees. Somewhere out there, the lands he's drawn wait in silence, unseen but believed in. He closes the shutters, returns to his desk, and begins to label the map's edge, Mare Oceanum, the Great Sea. His hand is steady, his letters even, another day's work nearly complete. In the stillness, the lines of the world continue to take shape. A quiet act of discovery done without movement, without noise. Just ink, patience, and the soft persistence of human curiosity. In a quiet workshop in the city of Duisburg, a man named Gerardus Mercator bends over a table much like the one you imagined before. His tools are simple: a quill, a compass, a ruler, and a lifetime of accumulated knowledge. The year is 1569, and outside, Europe is changing. Sailors return from the far corners of the world with maps, measurements, and tales that blur fact and fantasy. But within this small, ordered room, Mercator works to bring them into harmony. He was born Gerard de Kremer in 1512, in what is now Belgium. Mercator, the Latinized form of his name, means merchant, a nod to his family's trade. But Gerardus would sell something far less tangible than goods. He traded in perspective the way the world itself was seen. From his youth, he was fascinated by the union of mathematics and beauty, of geometry and art. He studied under scholars who saw maps not merely as tools, but as expressions of the divine order of creation. His early years were marked by restlessness. Traveled to Louvain, where he learned engraving and studied under Gemma Frisius, a mathematician who taught him the delicate balance between scientific precision and artistic form. Together, they crafted some of the finest globes of their time, spheres that mirrored both the known and the imagined. Each was a miniature cosmos, etched and polished by hand. But Mercator's work soon took a darker turn. In 1544, he was accused of heresy, a charge that haunted many thinkers of his generation. His maps were meticulous, but his ideas were too curious, too questioning. For 7 months he was imprisoned. When released, he moved to Duisburg, seeking both safety and quiet. There, surrounded by his instruments, he devoted his life to creating something greater than a map, a new way to understand the world's surface. His 1569 world map, the one that bears his name to this day, was revolutionary. Before Mercator, maps distorted the Earth so severely that navigation across oceans was guesswork at best. He reimagined geography with mathematical elegance, a projection that allowed sailors to plot straight courses over the curvature of the globe. It wasn't perfect. It stretched the poles and distorted the Arctic, but it offered something no map had before: consistency, reliability, and direction. Imagine him then, sitting at his desk, a man in late middle age, his beard gray, his hands stained with ink. Around him, the room is filled with rolled parchments, sketches of continents, astronomical tables. The only sound is the faint rasp of quill against paper, the slow breath of thought. His eyes are weary but alert. He works not for applause but for understanding. He would not live to see the full spread of his projection. Long after his death, sailors and scholars would use his design to chart empires, to cross oceans, to imagine the globe as a whole. His name would become a quiet, constant Mercator, printed in the corner of maps that guided centuries of travel. And yet, for all its grandeur, the act itself was humble. His work was still done in candlelight, in silence, ink drying slowly, the turning of a compass, the soft scrape of parchment, both patient, both imperfect, both enduring. Beneath the quiet of libraries and archives, there are ghosts of maps that never made their way to light, lost in shipwrecks, consumed by fire, or simply left unfinished on forgotten desks. They remind us that for every famous chart, there are countless others that vanished into the currents of time. Some lie beneath centuries of dust, faint outlines on yellowed parchment, their coastlines smudged by water and fingers. Others survive only in descriptions, a map of the southern continent, chart of islands now unseen. These fragments speak of a world imagined as much as known. They were sketches of hope, speculation, or faith, drawn by men who trusted stories told by sailors who had glimpsed something shimmering on the horizon and could not say exactly what. Archaeologists and historians still uncover such traces. A waterlogged trunk found in a harbor warehouse might contain scrolls fused together by salt. A monastery archive yields a single torn sheet marked with latitude lines far too precise for its time. Each discovery is a whisper from an age of discovery that never fully ended. Among the most intriguing are the Portolan charts, hand-drawn maps from the Mediterranean, traced in networks of lines like delicate spiderwebs. Their precision remains a quiet marvel. No one knows exactly how the earliest ones were made. They appeared suddenly in the 13th century, astonishingly accurate, as though copied from some lost original. The mystery persists. Were they the result of centuries of forgotten observation, or did they come from some older hidden source? In the dim halls of old universities, restorers now study them under faint light, watching how ink soaks into fibers of parchment, how compass roses bloom across the page like flowers. When magnified, the pigments glimmer softly, copper greens, muted reds, faded gold leaf. These were not just tools, but works of devotion. Every curve, every name, was an act of faith in the world's discoverability. And so the lost maps become part of their own story, the unseen layer beneath our modern knowledge. You might imagine them resting quietly, deep in archives or sea chests, ink fading into the color of the paper itself. The world they described may have shifted, but their essence remains, a desire to make sense of the vast and the unseen. Even now, satellites trace coastlines with perfect precision, but something of that mystery endures, that longing to draw the world not just as it is, but as it might be. While the mapmaker worked in stillness, the sailor lived in motion. One traced the world from memory and mathematics, and the other from wind and waves. Between them stretched a vast distance, one of sound, of rhythm, of life itself. In the scholar's study, everything is measured. The air smells of ink, oil, and parchment. Dust settles quietly on shelves lined with books. The windows rattle faintly when wind rises outside. But inside, there is no movement but the careful turning of a compass. The light is soft and golden, the hours indistinguishable. At sea, everything is different. The deck heaves. The air is alive with salt and spray. Men shout over the roar of waves. Charts unfurl across rough wood, held down with stones to keep them from blowing away. A sailor's hand, rough calloused, points to a line drawn months before by a man he will never meet. He trusts it completely. The inked path becomes a lifeline through uncertainty. It is easy to imagine one thinking of the other. The mapmaker picturing the rolling horizon he has never seen, the sailor picturing the quiet room from which his journey began. Both bound by the same fragile link, a piece of parchment, a shape of ink. In the great cities of Europe, nobles and merchants praised explorers, not mapmakers. Yet it was the quiet scholar who gave their voyages meaning. When a ship returned, battered and half-broken, its captain carried not treasures but information, the angle of a star, the distance between two capes, and in some quiet room, that knowledge became a line, a correction, another thread in the tapestry of the world. Over centuries, their work intertwined, the stillness of the scholar and the motion of the sailor. And through both, humanity learned to see the planet as a whole, round, vast, and wondrously connected. The candle burns lower now. The map lies finished, its edges curled slightly with heat. Outside, the wind has died and the city is still. Somewhere far away, ships are moving across oceans, following lines drawn in quiet rooms centuries ago. You might picture the mapmaker resting his tools, cleaning his pen, closing his eyes for a moment as dawn seeps into the sky. His work is done for now, though the world he traced will keep changing, new coastlines, new islands, new dreams. The room grows dim, the ink dries. The parchment cools beneath his hands, and slowly, like the rhythm of waves against a distant shore, everything returns to silence.